Ladies and gentlemen, Social Day Birmingham. Good morning. How are we? We're feeling good? Excellent. I want to say a huge thank you to Lucy and Stuart for continuing to put on these amazing events, because I know what a huge amount of hard work and dedication goes into it. So I just want to say thank you so much for holding these events still, and thank you for inviting me here to speak about something that is actually very dear to my heart. Very often I speak about Facebook, but today I'm talking about something a little bit different. How to stay human in a digital world. If you want to tweet, that's my Twitter handle there, same as my name. So, I'm Julia Bramble. I'm a mum of 6, as Stuart's already said, which is great, fun, crazy, but it also means that just like you, I don't have any time to faff around doing stuff that is not going to get me where I want to be. So that's where I'm coming from today. I'm also, as Stuart said, a scientist. I worked in forensic science and I've got a PhD in molecular biology, for what it's worth. But what that means is I'm not some like data geek that's going to overwhelm you with numbers and stuff. What it means is that I look at all the new stuff, all the new tech, all the new methods coming in, and I turn that into a process that's robust and repeatable, which is what we need in small business, isn't it? We don't want to be testing stuff ourselves all the time. We want to be using stuff that works. And that's absolutely what forensic science is about as well. The bottom picture is just showing that as well as working in my social media business, for many years, I was working in a business membership organisation across the UK that helps small businesses grow. And that means I'm not talking to you today from the perspective of an info marketer with all this airy-fairy stuff going on. I'm talking to you from the perspective of someone that lives and breathes and works with small businesses at the ground level. So why? Why is it so important to be human in a digital world? Why can't we just go with the flow and go with all the automation that's coming on stream? Go with the robots and the artificial intelligence? Well, because social media's been with us now for about 10 years, hasn't it? And 10 years ago, because it was so new and it was the realm of teenagers and celebrities, if we jumped on board social media, then we got a lot of attention because it was an empty space. There was novelty value. And with that attention came inquiries, leads, customers. But now, everybody's on social media, which is great. It's a form of communication. It's embedded in our everyday lives. I bet all your grannies are on social media. It's just a thing, isn't it? And that means it's a very, very crowded space. And that means that the cracks are beginning to show. So the internet marketers who've been doing their stuff for years are now reporting that conversions are more expensive, leads are getting harder to come by, and sales volumes are going down. There are winds of change afoot. Has anyone here heard of the marketing expert in the States called Mark Schaefer?
Yes, Julia.
Good. Thank you, Stuart. Over 3 years ago, he looked at the situation out there in the online marketing, the digital marketing world. And we all know that if we're on social media and we want to attract attention, we need to share stuff, don't we? Content, in other words. I like calling it stuff because stuff is kind of a bit of a friendlier term than content, which is a bit impersonal. Anyway, he looked at what was going on in the digital world and he came to the conclusion that actually businesses and brands and marketers were churning out now so much stuff that actually their audiences wouldn't be able to consume all the stuff that there was in their entire lifetime. And this phenomenon is what he called content shock. We have reached the age of content shock. That was 3 years ago in some sectors, so just imagine what it's like now. Our audiences, the very people we want to interact with, are feeling overwhelmed by all this content, by all this information. No longer is information the prized commodity. The prized commodity is actually being able to filter it and make it useful for us. The situation gets worse. Oh yes, the situation gets worse. There have been some surveys done of the people who are on social media every day, the people that we want to engage with and interact with as businesses. And guess what? Even in the UK, over 90% of the people surveyed said that they viewed the content shared by businesses and brands as rubbish. Absolute rubbish. It meant nothing to them. It was meaningless. It was irrelevant. It was adding no value to their lives. That's pretty awful, isn't it? That's a pretty awful state of affairs. Because the problem is, if you're sharing stuff and your audience is A, feeling overwhelmed, and B, sees that stuff as rubbish, then how are they actually going to perceive you as a business or a brand? It's not looking pretty. We also have gurus such as Eric Fisher from Social Media Examiner, Brian Peters from Buffer, Adele Mayer, well-known Twitter experts. These guys were at a Twitter panel at Social Media Marketing World in San Diego that I went to recently. Even they are saying that things are changing. 2 years ago on Twitter, you could share some stuff, you could have a couple of conversations, a little bit of engagement, and you could grow your business. They're all growing their businesses on Twitter, so they're walking the walk, right? Now, they're saying, no, we can't do that anymore. We're not getting the response anymore. We're not growing our business if we do that. We need to take time. We need to go in. We need to be focused. We need to have proper conversations with proper people. It's all changing. Oh, that's interesting. Let's hope it comes back, because that would be really helpful. It is changing, you see. It is absolutely changing. It's fine. I can do.
Yeah, there you go.
Perfect. So it's what is going on at the moment, ladies and gentlemen. What we are doing as brands and businesses is we are just covering people in loads and loads of purple-looking, great-looking, content-y rubbish. That's what we're continuing to do, ladies and gentlemen. We are listening to the social media experts who say, oh yes, you've got to put out 10 tweets a day, because otherwise people are going to get wow. Yes? Have you heard that one? You've got to stay top of mind, because otherwise you won't have any brand awareness, you won't have any brand presence. So businesses and marketers are spending all their time dreaming up this content to stay at the top of the news feed, to keep that brand awareness going. And all it is, for the most part, is a load of this. It's pink, just kind of stuff that is viewed by our audiences as rubbish. That's not looking good, is it? Because the people that we want to interact and engage with are not robots. They are not automatons who are just geared up to consume our content and do what we want them to do. They're human beings. And what does being human mean? It means being really excited or really scared. It means being ecstatic or a bit down. It means being joyous and celebrating, or it means being really angry. It means all those things, doesn't it? What it doesn't mean is just being a machine that's going to gobble up content and do what we want them to do. Has anyone seen this diagram before? Yes, Julia. Yes, you have. You've all come across Maslow and his hierarchy of needs. You absolutely have. Don't try pretending that you haven't. We may not like it because it may mean a little more work for us as businesses, but Maslow surmised that as humans, what we need to survive and then be successful sits in a hierarchy. So the very basic things we know we need are shelter and food and clothing and a bit of sleep. That always helps, although that sometimes goes by the by, doesn't it? We need all that. And next, we need to feel that we are safe and secure. And we know that actually in times when we're not feeling safe, actually it can be really stressful. It's not a nice time, is it? But after that, the very next thing that we need is this feeling of love and belonging. And how do we feel that we belong? How do we actually get that feeling of belonging? We do it through connection. We do it through feeling connected with people out there, with our near and our dear ones, with our friends, with our wider network. We do it through connection. We as humans have a deep psychological need for connection, for feeling connected. And not only do we have this psychological need, do you know they've done some scientific studies on this, there's a surprise, and they've actually found that connection impacts us not only psychologically, but also physically in terms of our health. So, to quote this, men and women without significant human connection are twice as likely to die. Well, there you go. So now you know what you have to do to live a long and happy life. Strong social connection leads to a 50% increased chance of longevity. And in fact, they've shown that if you do have strong social connection, it actually improves your immune system. How cool is that? So it's not only a psychological need, it's actually a physical requirement for our well-being as well. So how do we connect? Say you've been away for a little while and you come back and see your family or friends again for the first time. How would you naturally feel connected with them again? Come on, someone answer. You're not all asleep, not yet. Hey. Memories, yeah. So you would talk about...
Past experiences.
Lovely. Brilliant, yeah, thank you. Memories and past experiences. Anybody else have anything to add to that? Face-to-face, telephone, yeah, absolutely. We communicate, don't we? Totally. And what do? Well, I find that I ask questions. I want to find out what the other person is up to. I want to find out what is going on in their world so that I understand where they're at, so I can put myself in the same place and therefore feel connected with them again. That's what we do, isn't it? Absolutely. That was a yes, Julia moment, by the way. Thank you. So, do I have anyone here in the audience who would like to be very brave and just say a couple of things from the front that would really help me out at this stage? You'd like to? Oh, you'd like to? Okay, perfect. Thank you. Would you like to come up to the front a minute, please? Yes. Thank you. What's your name? Mel. Brilliant. Thank you, Mel, for being a brave volunteer. All I want Mel to do is to say a couple of things out to you as the audience. And as she's speaking, I would really like you as the audience to notice how you're feeling about Mel and whether you're trying to pick up anything. Just note how you feel with 2 sentences that are going to be different. So thank you, Mel. I'll give you the microphone. The first time out, what I'd like you to say is just say your name and then say what's great about your business or the business that you work for, just in 1 sentence. Is that okay?
As a woman to woman, you want me to condense it into 1 sentence?
1 sentence to them. There you go. 1.
I'm going to try. That sentence doesn't count, by the way. My name is Mel, and I'm a community-based personal trainer. I help people feel better about themselves.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you. Right, please hold in your heads how you feel about Mel after that first sentence, and now she's going to say something else, if that's all right.
Is it going to be mean?
No, it's not going to be mean.
I want them to like me.
Yeah, exactly. All I want you to do now is to say how you felt about coming to the event this morning, how you felt when they came in the room or something like that. Say your name again and say that. Is that okay? Thank you.
Yeah, that's fine. Pressure.
It's on. It's real.
So, hi, my name is Mel. I felt a bit nervous and apprehensive about coming to the event. I didn't know that it was on, but Andrew and Pete told me about it, so I made the effort to come, and now I'm here. I'm really happy that I came.
Thank you. That is absolutely perfect. So, ladies and gents, first sentence that Mel spoke to the second sentence that Mel spoke, was there a difference in terms of how you felt? Good, thank you. Did you feel more connected to Mel first time out or second time out? Awesome. And why was that?
Honesty.
Yeah? Emotion. Nice. Showing the human side. Sharing maybe an experience that some of you felt as well when you were coming in this morning. So something you could relate to. Was that a yes, Julia? Yes. Good. Thank you. Thank you. Brilliant. That was absolutely perfect.
Can I go and sit down?
Yes, you can. Thank you so much. Big round of applause for Mel. Woo! Perfect. So that little demonstration is just to remind us actually what it feels like as humans to feel maybe not connected with someone and then to actually feel more connected. I wanted to really embed it. And that's a great example. But sadly, when we go back online, we forget all about that, don't we? There's a complete disconnect going on. Part of that, I believe, is down to the fact that when social media became a thing and when marketers decided to jump all over it, they had to take some sort of model, something they already knew, and use that as a way for using social media. And that model then got embedded as the thing to do. And what I'm suggesting is that those models aren't necessarily the right way to go. And the first of those models is internet marketing. So we've got internet marketers who've been around for longer than social media. And I'm not slating internet marketers, but what do they focus on? They focus on numbers. They focus on websites, on conversions. They focus on capturing leads. They focus on email blasts. They focus on bums on seats. They focus on campaigns. Like, who's heard those terms? Email blasts, bums on seats, numbers. And what's that serving to do? That's just dehumanizing the very people that actually we want to engage with and interact with. It's taking the humanity away from actually what we want to be doing. Has anyone seen this model before? To get people to do business with you, yes, Julia. To get people to do business with you, you need to get them to know, like, and trust you. Perfect. That's absolutely true. And this model works brilliantly in the offline networking world. And that's because it's offline. That's because when we meet people face to face, we intuitively use our gut instinct, our intuition, all our five senses to work out whether we feel connected with people or not. Online, we forget that we actually have to do a bit of work to make that connection thing work before this kicks in. So we are missing out on that vital element if all we're focusing on is the know, like, and trust. And we end up sharing all that tissue papery content that's meant to know, like, and trust without actually building the foundations in the first place. Our businesses, whether we like it or not, are driven by our audiences. And do you know what our audiences are out on social media to do? They are out to fill that deep psychological need that we all have, that need for connection. People are browsing social media looking for connection. You know it's true, don't you? When you're sat there idly scrolling through Facebook when actually you should be doing something in your business, yeah, we've all been there. You're either stalking your ex-boyfriend or your best friend or seeing what the family down the road have what installed in their new kitchen, whatever else, or you're scrolling mindlessly through in that trance-like state, waiting for a little spark of connection to come out and grab you. We all know it's true, and yet we seem to forget it when we are actually the businesses who are going out there trying to make that connection work. Offline, we know we've got all our ways of intuitively connecting with people. Online, how on earth do we make that connection thing work? What do we do? Well, your way of connecting with people online is going to be through a piece of content that you've shared, or it's going to be through an interaction that somebody sees you having, or it's going to be someone looking at your profile. They're the only chances you've got online of being connectable with. And we know whether we have actually got an attention span that's less than a goldfish or not, whether it is 8 seconds, 9 seconds, whatever it is, we know that we've only got a split second to make that connection work. So how on earth do we actually get this connection thing working then, Julia? It's all very well you spouting all this flipping theory at us, but we want something practical to do, don't we? Yes, Julia, we do. What we need to remember, this is the cardinal rule that we need to remember, is that if we want people to connect with us, then we mustn't expect that they are on the same page as us. What we've got to do is get onto their page. That's the overarching rule, and that happens in real life and online. Did you know, I found out recently, and I find this fascinating, that we've actually got, as human beings, we've got two ways of making sense of our world. We've got two thinking pathways that happen in our little heads up here. One thinking pathway is the analytical pathway, and that's where we're looking at facts and figures and everyday life and planning and all that sort of stuff that we do. The other is the social pathway, and that's where we're actually making sense of our social interactions. We're always trying to read into things where the other person is coming from. We just do, naturally. It's part of our makeup. It's part of our psyche. What is absolutely fascinating is that scientists have found that when the analytical pathway is on, the social pathway is put in screensaver mode, and vice versa. When your social thinking is on, your analytical head is quietened down. So that means that when we're out there on social media and we are talking to people who are necessarily going to be in social mode, if we're sharing a load of facts and figures and gumph and why people should buy from us, what they need, that's not going to connect with them, because they're in social mode and we're throwing analytical stuff at them. So if you've ever wondered why it is that we actually have to make friends with people before we can sell to them, I would suggest that that is absolutely why. Okay, that's great, but how do we do this stuff, Julia? These three ways that I'm going to whiz through now. First is we've absolutely got to be connectable with. We can't be robots, we can't be automatons, we're not going to encourage that connection. And we do this with all these lovely, flimmy-flammy phrases that will make great quotes if you want to share them out on Twitter. What I want to do is go through and show you what they actually mean, because I'm not one for like great quotes that don't actually mean anything. We absolutely need to be human. But have you heard all the experts saying that you've got to be authentic, and you've got to be yourself, and you've got to be real? Well, that's great if you're a one-person business, but what about more established businesses? What about larger businesses? What does that mean? Well, that really means showing the human side. That really means letting people know what you're about, what you believe in. That means telling stories. That means showing stuff behind the scenes. That's what humanity is about, and not being perfect. If someone's actually perfect, it's actually very difficult to relate to them, because there are no little things that you can actually hook up with. Say, oh yeah, I feel the same way, or oh yeah, I've had that experience as well. Then we need to be these three things: relatable, relevant, and interested in other people. So what is going on in the world of your ideal clients? What's in their world? What matters to them? What's important to them? When you're creating content, when you're going out there on social media, are you thinking about your ideal client's aspirations? Or are you thinking about conversions? Are you thinking about their hopes and their dreams and their fears? Or are you thinking about your sales volumes? What are you actually doing? Are you thinking about their world or yours? If you're not thinking about their world, your stuff is going to be all this flimmy-flammy tissue paper stuff that's all over the floor now. In order for your content to be relevant to the people that you want it to hit and spark that connection with, you need to know their context, where they are coming from. Well, that's lovely, Julia, but what on earth does that mean? Well, it means, say you're engaging with mums. Say mums are the people that you really want to be talking with. Then when you're sharing stuff out there on social media, let them know that you understand what life is like at school run time, say. How crazy it is that you've got to do 2 different school pickups and then get Jane off to her swimming lesson and try and force some tea down the other children and then come back and bath them and put them to bed without falling into a soggy heap in the process. Let them know that you understand that. Because if they know that you understand that, they know that you are interested in them. And nothing forges a connection better than someone knowing that someone feels interested in them. For me, I deal with small business owners who maybe lack a bit of confidence around social media and Facebook ads. If I just share a load of links on Twitter to really complex articles on Power Editor or e-commerce, rubbish. There's a saying that goes, if you can't think of anything nice to say, then don't say anything at all. I would go further than that, and I would say if you can't think of anything nice or that's going to add relevance or meaning to your people's lives to say, then don't say anything at all. Stop filling up the gaps with a load of fluffy stuff that no one actually needs, that's adding to the overwhelm and the noise that everybody is suffering from, and make something meaningful. And get comfortable with these networks. This is where your one-to-one conversation is going on. This is why these networks have come to the fore. That's Snapchat and Instagram stories, by the way. Because people have gone full circle and they've gone back to the individual communication again. Be responsive. If somebody was sat opposite you in a coffee shop and they spoke to you, would you speak back? Yes, you absolutely would. And yet on social media, there's a whole load of comments that are going unanswered. Our content gets shared and we go back and say thank you and leave it at that. And we've got massive opportunities to actually have conversations, real conversations with real people. Like another marketer in the States who, when I tweeted out that I'd been to my daughter's dance show, responded with the fact that she was trained as a professional dancer. And we had a really long conversation that's resulted in us actually helping each other out and offering to share each other's content because we feel really connected. There's a baker in Devon who shared some of the tweets that I put out showing photos of Devon. And again, we've had a great conversation. I now know when their bakery store opening times are. I know what their cakes look like. I know, in fact, when she eats breakfast and what her breakfast consists of. We've got a real connection, and that's going to last. Number 3 is actually, you can use social media to jump in and just have those conversations that you want to have with people directly. You don't have to share a lot of this stuff in order to get a response and then start it then. You can dive right in and have conversations. You can get in front of people who wouldn't answer the phone to you. We know this. There was a question put out recently by an online marketer on Facebook just asking his network so he was asking his network on Facebook which networks they actually use to build their business. And there were a lot of online marketers that came back and replied to his question. And these people are successfully building their businesses online, okay? They're not just people who talk, they're people who do it. And they all responded with different platforms. But the one thing that they all said was that they were going in there and using these platforms to talk directly to the right people. They're not out there just sharing a load of stuff and hoping that some of it hits. They're talking directly. So we can do that too. And don't forget, it's not all about new connections, is it? We know, don't we, that it takes a lot less time, effort, and energy to encourage one of our current or past customers to buy from us again as businesses. But how are you keeping connected with your past customers? Are you emailing them every couple of weeks with a new offer? Or are you actually looking out for them on Twitter or Instagram and sharing their stuff and responding to what they say? Are you responding to their Facebook posts if you're a Facebook friend? Do you actually know what's going on in their world so that if you bumped into them at a networking event, say, or called them up on the phone, you could say, oh, how was your holiday? And let them know that they matter, that you're interested in them. This is great, Julia, but is it actually going to have any effect on my bottom line? Well, I can tell you something for sure, and that is that being sat in front of my computer all day doing this kind of stuff has certainly had an effect on, my bottom line. Sad but true. However, I know that isn't the bottom line that you're really interested in. Well, what social media is very, very bad for. Let's get back to social media. What social media is very difficult for is actually proving any sort of return on investment or doing any form of split testing. It's tricky to do that. But that is why I absolutely love this experiment that was carried out by a group of writers who wanted to test whether using connection in the form of storytelling, because we all know that that's a great way to connect with other human beings. They wanted to use connection through storytelling and see whether using that could actually increase the perceived value of objects that were sold. So what they did is they went out there and they spent about $120 on a load of rubbishy stuff from car boot sales and flea markets. They wrote a story for each of these 100 objects and listed them on eBay. Guess how much those objects sold for? Any guesses? No? Okay, I'll let you know then. They sold for over $3,600. The power of human connection through storytelling helped give an ROI of, if I've done my maths right, 2,700%. So that's pretty cool. That's why we need to be using the power of connection, isn't it? Yes, Julia? Good. This is a quote that I use very often in my presentations. We need to connect before we can sell. Because if we do that, if we think about connection, then actually, instead of sharing all that flimmy-flammy stuff, what we share is nuggets of pure sugary goodness. Ooh. Yes, Julia. There we are, Vicky. I know that you need lots of sugar. If anyone would like some more sugar, I don't want to throw them too far because I know that I'm just bound to hit someone in the head and then I will get done and there won't be any liability insurance and it will all just be a nightmare. So I'm not trying to throw them too far because I don't want to cause any problems. But you get my drift. Let's start sharing stuff that is actually of value and of meaning to our people. And now I've lost my zapper. Oh no, here it is. So I would just like to leave you with an even better, more significant quotes than mine. The business of business is relationships. The business of life is human connection. Communication, the human connection, is the key to personal and career success. So I just want to know, are you going to go away from here now focused much more on connection than on making sales? Yes, Julia? Awesome, thank you.